Hello again everyone, welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. So as you can see, this is a P51d Mustang and this is a kit I assembled, and oh look, those are bent. There we are, that's better. This was a kit I assembled some 4 or 5 years ago when I returned to doing this sort of thing. It turned out quite nicely, and that's in 1/32 scale, so that's a Tamiya model, or Tamiya, depending upon where you come from in the world. As you know, I reviewed a little while ago an Airfix Vintage Classic 1/24 scale Mustang, and having considered this for some while, I've decided to add some things to it. So I've gone to the magnificent Airscale people and purchased from them some upgrades, some enhancements, shall we call them. I think enhancements would be a better word, and I'm going to look through them today. Now there's a few quid's worth here, it has to be said. I mean, you can pick these things up for, you know, these separate parts. This particular set, the main wheels, tail wheels, seat, gun sight and control column, I think it's about 20 quid or something like that. But there's a few more things I've got here, like the seat belts and the instrument panel as well. And the instrument panel looks to be quite detailed. But what I'll do is I'll go through these one at a time and compare them in terms of what they look like to the actual kit parts, and we can take things forward from there. Really, I would say it's probably a good thing to do. These resin parts are all 3D printed, as it happens, and I've not actually seen these sort of 3D printed parts, I think, up close and personal before. I've seen resin upgrades, as you will know, so I'm a comparative noob to this side of it. So we'll take a look at the parts as we go. I think perhaps we'll begin with the cockpit. I think that's probably a good idea. And you don't get to start looking at the cockpit until section 5 here, at which point you're being asked to assemble the seat and the bits and pieces, like we looked at the rudder bar here, which is a bit it's a bit monolithic, to be honest with you, but I don't think that it can be seen. So if we take a look inside this, for example, you can't actually see very much of the I'm trying to look down in it in such a way that you can see if we can get right into it there. Give it a bit of light. Can't actually see that much in there, to be honest with you. So the rudder bar side of things doesn't need to be absolutely accurate. The colour inside that particular Mustang, you might have looked at it and thought, my goodness zinners, that's a bit bright. It was the mixed colour that I used rather than the rather better, this is Outlaw Paints actually, interior green, which I think is a more accurate colour. Oh, that one's got a little ball in it, look. Not all of those bottles do, to be honest with you, but there we are. Anyway, so we'll take a look at the seat and the control column to begin with, and I think that's probably a good place to start. So I just need to find it, because as you'll know, the components on the sprues for the 1/24 scale kit are not in any particular order, and that makes things rather more difficult. So what we got here, we've got the chap here, and he looks reasonably accurate. He looks like a person, which is good, always useful. That's the tail wheel mounting there, but that's not what we want at all either. So where's the other bit? Oh, I've put the other bit far away, so I'm going to have to go and find it. Give me a second. Oofed. Here we go. We're back. There we go. So I don't know why I've just knocked a part off. Gonna have to be careful with that. These parts are on weekly, some of them, it would have to be said. Got the main undercarriage wheels here. We can actually, let's do a comparison of those whilst we're looking. I think that's probably a good place to start. So main undercarriage wheels. I'll just take a couple of those. As you'll know, these things are printed onto a former like this, and then you have these little tubules here, which is where the resin material is laid down. So let's have a look here. The first thing that becomes immediately obvious is that you can actually see through the wheels. The light will show through the wheel spokes, which of course you won't get with the original kit. Now remember, this is a 1970s kit. It was moulded first in the 1970s, so there will be some limitations, of course, but you know, we don't want to be overcritical about this. But as you can see, the detail is really quite significantly different. There's a lot more to see there, and you've got you know, you've got quite a lot to do. In fact, you've got quite a lot to do to take the components off. But we can look at that, and then this is the back side of that. I'll just knock something else off, I think. Gonna have to look out for this. I'll just take this out here. This is the next bit. This is the inside of the wheel, and again, this is exquisitely delicate, the way that this has been done. And once again, you can see the wheel there. The spokes shine through. Don't get that with the original model moulding, of course. And of course, these two components will fit together after that fashion there, and then the tyre will go on underneath that. Let's see if we can find a wheel. I'll zero out for you a minute. I know Mr. Gasman doesn't like me saying zero, so apologies to him. He prefers it if I say zoom, but I've been saying zero for so long that I can't remember to say zoom, so I can only apologise to him for my cursed ineptitude. So there we go. That's the wheel there. Again, it's one solid printing, and that will just slide simply onto there. As you know, I don't need to go through that in any great detail. I'm looking for a tyre here. Doesn't look like I can find one, or that there is one. Ah, they're all rubber components. There we go. That's why they're in another part of the. Now, anybody who's buying these kits, I would say, yeah. So these are rubber components. Tell you what, we'll take that out of the bag. Get my super duper scissors. Cut that right off there. Put that in the gash bag. And we'll take a quick look at these tyres. Right, okay, so the first thing we see, no tread on the tyres. So the first obvious thing is you've got a proper tread on those tyres there, and looks like there's a slight flattening there that you can see. So I think something of an improvement there. There's no maker's mark on the tyre surround. I would have thought there ought to be, but there isn't, so we'll have to do without. But the tyres are definitely an improvement there over the kit part. It's kind of what you would expect, really. Put that back in that box there. So let's return these to their little bags, so they don't get damaged or dusty or anything like that. We'll put them away over there. As I said, these parts are really quite delicate. So that's your undercarriage wheels. We haven't gone in quite the order that I intended, but I think this is for the purposes of truthfully, the purposes of convenience. Let's put it like that. There we are. Right, so they'll put those away. Now the next challenge I have is to find the pilot's seat here, which ought to be reasonably obvious, to be honest with you, but may have fallen off the sprues. I think, as I recall, maybe that was one of the parts that had in fact come off the sprue. And I may be right here, because it doesn't look like that's anywhere near at hand. So we'll have to go into the bag. Yes, it has fallen off the sprue. And that's your your original fit pilot seat. So as we go into it, quite a lot of well, there's 3 ejector pin marks on the front face here. It's about the right, well, in fact it's not the right shape by the look of it. It's been, I suspect, fashioned from something else and fits directly onto the back panel, as you can see from here. So a bit of engineering work will need to be done to fit this part, but this is really very delicate indeed, and is accurate down to all of the little details that go on the back here. So these, I'll just see if we can show you that. This, let's get the poker out. This component here, which is the H frame, which has some springy whatnots on it, is actually incorporated into the back here, as you can see. So this and this assembly would fit directly onto the back panel like this, and then down onto the floor panel. So as you can see, much more open moulding, much more lifelike in its appearance, I would say. And yeah, I don't quite know what this looks like. A Spitfire seat. It looks more like a Spitfire seat than it does a Mustang seat. Clearly this dimpled seat panel here is where the pilot's parachute goes, so we'll have to do without that. But there we have the pilot's seat there. Again, it's another very, very detailed piece of work there, and I would hope, in fact I think, quite accurate in the way that it's been put together. If we make a comparison between that and this, shall we say, the seat has the bars on the side that you can see. There's the parachute underneath. Well, in fact, there isn't the parachute. There is the seat cushion at the back. I don't like it. Looks a little bit monolithic, quite honestly, on the Tamiya kit, but there we are. But you can see the accuracy of the Airscale seat is much, much better. Moving on to our control column, I think this is one of the things where there isn't an awful lot to tell between the two, but what we'll do is we'll zero right in on this and have a look in detail at this. I need to find that one. Ah, there we go, look, and that's just there. So let's zero right in and have a look at that. As you can see, there's some moulding problems here on this boot here, and quite a lot of flash there, but you know, we can ignore that bit. But it would look reasonably realistic, and it looks okay. It's not too bad. And then we move to a comparison here. Let's turn it the same way. Of this, the detail is much greater. You've got no sink marks on the boot. There will need to be a little bit of cleanup on this, but as you can see, it does look quite a lot better. It's not that much different, to be honest with you. You know, it's less monolithic if we do the comparison directly. The trigger is more visible. Little pip on the top, which is another button, is also more visible, although this is more pronounced. So it's bigger, more monolithic, as I've said. So you know, 9 out of 10 in the age, or for the accuracy of this, for the builder in the 1970s. So I mean, that's not too bad. Modern technology gives us that capability to improve what we've got there, and to make more of it, which is lovely to see. So let's just put that back over there. We don't need that anymore. So covered the seat, we've covered the wheels, we've covered the control column. The next thing to look at here, I think, is really the we can look at the gun sight in a minute as well. The next thing to look at will be the instrument panel. which is down here. And so what you get with Airscale is the instrument panel upgrade for the 1/24th, and this is a set of components here with some instructions. And so I'm looking at this for the first time with you here. So general operating data, there we are. So this is what we have. And the first thing I notice actually is that this component here, which is the rear part of the, I would guess, of the instrument panel, appears to be slightly curved. Now I'm going to assume that that's been done on purpose. And the same is true for this one as well. That's quite odd, that, I have to say. I'm quite surprised by that. But there are a number of components. So what we have is the main instrument panel back, and then there's a backing that presumably it goes onto. So one goes on top of two, I suspect. Yeah, by the look of it, that's the case. And then 3 sits on 4, which sits on 1. We've then got the lower part of the instrument panel here, which involves some instruments, the names of which I don't recall, and then we've got the fuel tank selector switches, so you can select between the underbody fuel tank and the main fuel tanks. As remember, Mustang had 2 fuel tanks on. In fact, it had more than that. I think it had 3 or 4 fuel tanks. There's certainly one behind the pilot's seat, and then one in front of the engine bulkhead, or between the engine bulkhead and the pilot, as I recall, and then wing tanks as well. So those are those red blocks in the upper wing tops. So there's quite a lot of detail here, but it's not clear exactly how this goes. So let's read this: paint backplate parts gloss black, cut out decals one at a time and apply to backplates, ensuring alignment to edges. There we are. Assemble a sandwich of backplate part, glazing and front panel parts. So there's something else in here. Here we are, look. So here's the decals. So we have the main instrument panel decals here. It's the artificial horizon and the gyro compass there. Let's just go in a little bit here. So artificial horizon and gyro compass, and then some flying controls. There'll be rate of climb and descent indicator, turn and slip indicator. I'm trying to think of which would be which here. Let's fetch the magnifying glass in and I can maybe help here. Turn and slip indicator is there. Don't know what that is. One of these will be a clock, possibly that one, I don't know. Altimeter here. Don't know what that is. That's another compass, I suspect. Anyway, be that as it may, you've got quite a lot of upgraded detailing here. When we compare to the original kit fit, we have an instrument panel in grey, which you will need to use, which I shall find in a minute. So that is this here. So that's your instrument panel there. See if we can make that focus. And this may very well form the basis of this upgrade, so we'll have to be very careful about how we do this. It's quite important to get this bit right, I would suggest. There's some knobs and levers and some bells and whistles. That in there, this isn't focusing. That in there is the fuel tank selector. So you've got that upgrade part there to put in, and then the rest of it probably goes in the front here. So you do have as well, to go with this, some glazing as too, and that is, we'll just zero back out again, that is in here. and that's that bit there. So I'm sure you've seen a bit of plastic glass before, quite honestly, so you have to cut that for yourself. So again, good pair of sharp scissors there. See how easily it is to lose these things. We'll just put that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that glass panel over the top of the decal so that it doesn't get damaged, so the decal doesn't get damaged, and I'm going to put this underneath that in that way. And I think what I might do is just put this between those, like that. So a significant amount of additional detail, and again, if we go back to our 132 scale example, it is possible to see quite a lot of that that detail in there, as you can see. Now this is essentially in here, as you'll know, is a photographically reproduced decal, and then a transparency as a back panel. And what have I done with the glass panel, or the transparency? I've put it down somewhere. There it is. I've put it down. So we have this back panel here. Now it is possible to see on the original kit that this glass panel has some detail on it. You can just about make that out there. Quite useful. But we won't be using that bit. So there we go. I'm slightly concerned as to the shape of that cockpit glass, the windscreen there, but we'll cover that off when we get to it. And the last thing, I suppose, to finish off the cockpit is going to be the seat belts. So these are fabric seat belts with several different components, as you can see. I won't take them out. And then we have the photo etch belt sections here, as you can see there. Again, nicely detailed, somewhat larger because they're 1/24 scale, and a complete set of instructions on fitting the belts. So as you can see, it is really pretty detailed. There's nowhere to hide here. You've got to get this right because it will be noticed. You've got indications for you to be able to make these up, and also where to secure them. So buckle number 6, let's find buckle number 6. There it is. Buckle number 6 is just there, and it says buckle number 6 is usually secured to the seat backrest or to a fuselage hard point at shoulder level. Buckles number 1, and those would be the side ones, so buckles number 1 there and there, are usually secured to the seat pan or to a fuselage hard point at hip level. Please check your references. So we need to make certain that we get this right, and some research is required. So there you are. You can see the belt there, done up. It's that's the quick release handle that just lift that away and away you go. So it's yeah, very interesting, very good. That the detail in these is really pretty good. So Airscale have adhered to their usual high quality ways in producing some decent quality enhancements to the Mustang, the North American P51d Mustang kit that you can buy from Airfix. This won't be the totality of the changes required. One of the things that people who've built this kit will notice very quickly is that the undercarriage oleo legs are in the relaxed position, which means that the oleo leg is reflecting the aircraft having lifted off, and therefore the suspension is under no strain, which means that the scissor part of the oleo leg see if we can find them here, is stretched. So let's show you that. So as you can see, this scissor part is stretched. If we then make a comparison between that and the underside of my 132 scale Mustang, you can see very quickly that the scissor is not stretched. So that's what it should look like when the aircraft rests upon its legs, and it actually shouldn't look like that as far as I can make out. So there is some work to be done there. Quite how I'm going to deal with that I don't know, but I'm going to find a way. And also obviously have to remove these ejector pin marks. I think we'll find quite a lot of ejector pin marks here and there. There we go. So the last thing you've got is a couple of tanks here. These are fuel tanks, but I can just point them out for you. You've got quite a lot of work to do when you make this kit, I will have to say. At one stage or another, when I get on to doing this, I think that I shall be fairly fully occupied. It's probably going to be later this year, I would have thought. I need to finish the Canberra first, and then finish some other bits and pieces, and then perhaps I can get on to this afterwards. But there we are. So Airscale enhancements for the 1/24th scale Mustang. You can make your Mustang better if you want. There we go. Thanks very much indeed for your time today. If you're new to the channel, much obliged to you for coming along. Do feel free to subscribe. I'm always grateful when people do. It helps the channel to grow. And I shall look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you now. Bye bye.